Andre, do you feel bad about wasting water?
I do, honestly. I mean, the whole yellow, let it mellow, brown, flush it down rule, I've been applying that. Here in Arcadia, we spot the occasional dead lawn or water conservation sign. Yet when we return home, our faucets still turn on and our sprinklers still sprinkle. So what's the big deal?
Well, the dry land around us is slowly creeping closer to home day by day. Despite recent rains, California is still in this drought. No more than a couple hours from here lies the town of East Porterville, in which the drought has escalated to the point in which families cannot obtain consumable water.
Many are relying on a helping hand, such as that of the Emmanuel Iglesia Church, where we spoke to the pastor, Ramon Hernandez, who runs the church and has provided the community with water relief in a town where water has become a commodity.
Back in 2014, around September, October, that's when this really exploded, because all of a sudden it was 100 families without water, then it was 200, then it was 300, and the number was growing.
To make matters worse, the water is contaminated with nitrates that appeared as a result of the drought and acidic rain, rendering all groundwater undrinkable.
It was 400 different contaminants in the water. So we do not drink that water, There's a lady in the community, but she came in one day complaining that her hair was falling because she showers with this very contaminated water. And she goes, let me show you. And she went like this and she pulled her hair off. So the problem's still there, even though you see some green lawn somewhere, more families today are doing without water at home than what they were doing, say, 6 months ago.
We wanted to find out more about this increase, so we talked to the Director of Fiscal Operations at Tulare County's Emergency Services, Timothy Lutz, over Skype.
So where we'll really start to see whether the weather this last winter had any type of an impact is once we start to get into those late May into July months. Once that heat starts to creep back up and water starts to evaporate, then we'll really get a better picture.
We are now entering year 5 of this drought, and over 71% of the state is experiencing extreme drought conditions, and 46% is experiencing exceptional drought, the most severe drought category.
2011 through 2014 was a period said to be the driest on record in about 1,200 years in California. Our reliance on the snowpack, and especially on groundwater, has led to a statewide water crisis.
While we might not feel it as much here, California is the most populous state in the U.S. and is also a major supplier of the world's food.
This community has been called 2 things: ground zero and the epicenter of the drought.
Porterville, California, and more specifically East Porterville, a small town in central California with a concerning issue: water. East Porterville relied on a well system that initially sufficed until it failed after the lengthy California drought crippled the community.
Families here rely on water tanks and bottled water to deal with shortage and contamination. Many citizens are fortunate enough to receive the aid of their neighbors. Some Good Samaritans supply others with water, one of which being Donna Johnson.
Driving with Donna, we saw the first-hand effects of the water shortage. She told us of her experiences working here in East Porterville. She also took us to a few of her regular families along the way.
I thought I'd only be doing this about 3 months, and it's turned into 3.5 years, but I take water to them. Sometimes I take food or other donations. You just don't think about the different things without water, and clean water too. Watching your trees die, getting rid of your pets because you don't have any water for them. This house down the street, this little gal to her was on fire, and she had no water in her hose to even water down her house.
So as far as the city or the helping us out here fast enough, I think it's way slow. We're getting water delivered to this tank once a week. They cut that off. I mean, it helped, but then once it was gone, I mean, we felt more pressure on us. So yeah, we haven't heard. I mean, we did all the paperwork and everything. We're just on the waiting, on a waiting list. So even people on city water are out of water.
I would say, given the unique nature of this type of an emergency, and the way that any emergency operates, you set up a lot of the systems as you go. I feel that it is relatively stable. We certainly have commitments from the state of California to continue to provide funding through this drought, and we're using that funding to first stabilize residents immediately to get their immediate needs met, but then longer term, develop actual long-term lasting solutions that restore water to the residents' property. And the state's looking for results, given that they're spending a lot of money, in this area to make sure that we meet the needs of the residents. So on one side, we've had this really collaborative, we want to see ways that we can help response, but it also has created for us that level of everybody's watching, including the governor.
Other residents, even Donna, turned to denial.
How has this affected taking a shower or like washing the dishes or watering your lawn?
No, I don't have no trouble.
Your well was dry last year, though. You had no water.
No, what's the water pump that's a problem.
For months, he tried to fix his well. He couldn't accept that it was dry. He sat there. I wanted to cry. My neighbor finally cornered me and said, Donna, you had your well worked on. So he gave us a hose clear across our pasture, about 250 feet away. So that was pretty nice of him, and he passed away in the first 3 months of the drought.
Where have you been getting your water if you have not running water? At night, in the middle of the night, this guy will go to the park, to the pond, and get buckets of water. And I go, please tell me you're not drinking that water. He goes, oh, I'll boil it. And I go, that cannot be. How are you drinking that water? He goes, that's all the water that I can get. Here, it's just becoming too difficult to support your family. I grew up without any shoes. There was no electricity in my home. And she told me everything that she never had. But she goes, but we always had water.
Looking through Porterville, you just stumble upon houses like this sometimes. People can't handle living without water. The relief doesn't come in time. And a lot of the time, people just move out. Houses will become abandoned just like this.
Not only is it kind of a public health crisis, but it's also a mental crisis. Like, it really messes with how you think and how you live, and it's really understandable that people would just leave for somewhere where they can have stability. And it's sad that some people, this is a town where a lot of migrant workers come, and it's sad that some people come here for that stability. At least where they came from, they had water, they had basic necessities. It's amazing that here we have consumerism, but we don't have, something as simple as water.
So coming here last week, we came to this river and it had just been raining. So it was filled with clear, clean water. It didn't seem like there was much of an issue here, but now that we've returned here 2 weeks later,
Nothing, just absolutely no water, just shopping carts and desolation.
the drought's kind of been pushed under the rug. Places like this here in Porterville, no one really knows about them. People haven't heard about it. And more towns are becoming like this town. People are going without water, but these people are seemingly invisible. So it's still an issue, and we can't just let it be pushed under the rug like that. Returning home, the sharp contrast between the dry, arid East Porterville and the healthy green Arcadia becomes more apparent. Green fields, lawns, blooming flowers are part of the scenery. Here, the drought becomes just another subject.
In Arcadia, we have green everywhere in a place where there really shouldn't be any green because we live in a desert. And then to come here and to sit in what is literally a dry riverbed is such a contrast. And it makes me really realize that all that green space is just artificial.
Here in Arcadia, our waste doesn't present immediately concerning results like it does in East Porterville. Arcadia can waste and never notice the changes, forcing the city to implement restrictions.
Arcadia has made a lot of progress, but still has a lot of work to do. We ended the last water year, which ended last February, at a cumulative reduction of 25% as compared to 2013. It's been really difficult actually to get people to change. One of the things that's been most challenging has been kind of creating the buy-in from the community. Since they aren't really immediately affected by a lack of water, it's really hard for them to kind of see the urgency of the situation and actually start to care about water use.
You'd always hear about droughts going on in California, especially like in Arcadia. All these new water restrictions have come in lately. And you look at a place like Porterville and then you come back here to a place like Arcadia, it's like an alien world almost. In Porterville, you have people literally getting sick and searching for this water and going through like these complete unorthodox methods to go get it. So here, I feel like people aren't exactly aware that there's even a problem.
We're kind of continuing our focus on community engagement, outreach, and education. We have some partnerships in the work, first with the Arboretum, and we're also going to continue to update our water conservation ordinance, make it a little bit more nuanced.
The city of Arcadia has been making their attempts to be assertive, establishing strict rules and enforcement towards water use. For example, no watering between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m., only watering lawns 2 days a week, no hosing down driveways, sidewalks, and even your cars if you're not using a specific type of nozzle. The enforcement of these rules start with a warning, then a notice, and if the waste isn't controlled by Phase 3, the offender could be charged up to $500 in fines. This should have kept things under control, yet water waste keeps dragging the city deeper into the drought. The water grade that we got here in Arcadia was rated adequate, so people might think that's good enough. We have rain coming and everything's fine. But as a state, as a whole, we need to conserve more water because this is not an infinite source.
About like 80% of California's water goes to agriculture. And when you look at it in that context, I understand that a lot of people feel like there's nothing that we can do. But I think, we're doing this story about, conserving water here. It's not just conserving water, it's you as constituents of our democracy pushing for, better water usage, better regulations from the government, because we're really the deciding factor on what happens in the future. So we really have to start speaking up for the people who can't speak up.
I mean, I'm just so excited like high schoolers are getting involved because that's kind of the one area where, you're not homeowners, so we can't ask you to stop watering your lawn, but you can still have so much impact.
So if we look at this from a Californian perspective and not just from Arcadia, I think we all really need to band together if we really want to live a comfortable life with enough water for everyone. We can't just go out wasting thinking it's not going to affect anyone. It's going to play an effect, and if everyone comes together for that, then I think we'll be able to make a difference.
In the end, the choice to live sustainably lies with us. For you people watching this in Arcadia High School, we're the next generation. It's up to us what the future looks like. Whether or not we end up living lives with no water, with struggle, that's something that we get to decide. And whether or not we choose that option is something that we don't really know until the future.